So listen, Elden Ring Nightreign is actually really good, but I think that FromSoft could be in trouble with this one if they don't play their cards right. Like me. What's up everyone, MTK here, and recently I got to play a little over 12 hours of Elden Ring Nightreign at the network playtest that just took place here recently, and I have to say, it was awesome. I think you're really going to like it. And I did a deep dive video analysis of Elden Ring Nightreign where I break down my thoughts, how the game works, tell you everything I know about the game, and I'll leave a link to that video in the description if you are interested in that. I had a great time with the game, to say the least. But even though I was very impressed with Nightreign and what FromSoft is creating, as I reflect more and more on my playtime, I can't help but notice a few, for the lack of a better term, warning signs. So in this video, I'm going to give you 4 things that I think Elden Ring needs in order to avoid having a short stint of popularity, only to faceplant like an onion bro doing an obstacle course. Now, I want to be clear that these things are based off of my time in the playtest, which was only a small portion of the game. Some or all of these things could already be planned for the full game. But if they aren't, or at least something similar that serves the same purpose, Nightreign could end up being a flop. So let's get right to it. Firstly, Nightreign will need to have multiple maps, or procedural generation. The map we played in the playtest was decent size, although much smaller than an Elden Ring player will be used to, but almost every map is small compared to Elden Ring, to be fair. But size really isn't the issue here, especially since you don't really have time to explore the map even as it is, due to the ever-shrinking circle of death. But the problem is that I think you will get bored with the map pretty quickly at its current size, which means the bosses will be the only thing that you really look forward to, leaving the enemies, world, and exploration to be nothing more than an annoyance on the way to the boss. And since it looks like most of the bosses are just recycled reskins of bosses that you've already fought, they simply won't be enough to retain players for very long. Now don't get me wrong, it was awesome to fight an updated version of the Centipede Demon and bosses like Margit, which had new attacks and sometimes would invade you while you were out exploring. But after 20 to 30 runs, these things will just get old. Nightreign needs to have multiple maps to keep things surprising and fresh. I think it would be amazing if there was like one map to go with every Night Lord. So if you don't know, in Nightreign you choose the final boss you are hunting for each run. There are supposed to be around 8 of these at launch, so a really easy way to fix this issue would be just to give each Night Lord its own map unique to that boss. But at the very least, it needs some kind of procedural generation that changes the map with each run. But both of these things would be best. Now the next thing is plenty of random world events. This is kind of related to the first point, mainly because it serves the same purpose, which is to make sure that the game doesn't get way too stale, way too fast. Now these kinds of events are already in the game, to be completely fair. In my time, I was invaded by Margit several times, and an insect attack from the sky happened. I also had a magic storm appear over some chests I was trying to loot. But to be honest, this kind of thing just didn't happen near enough. Nightreign is going to need to have interesting world events take place more often, and they will need to have more variety. Obviously, they shouldn't be so frequent that you become annoyed, but they are going to be a crucial part of the game to help stave off boredom and complacency. Now the next one is probably the biggest out of all of them, and it could destroy the game altogether, and that's the difficulty. When I first started playing the game, it felt pretty tough, to be honest. Probably like the 3rd or 4th hardest game FromSoft has ever made. But once I learned where to go to get flasks, how to level at the right times, and the general flow of the game, the difficulty kind of fell off a cliff. Then it became more about the people you were playing with and not the game itself. If you got a good team, a W was almost certainly in your future. If you got a bad one, you didn't have much of a chance at all. If I was given more time with the game, I can easily see how this would lead to abandoning it altogether because the challenge and subsequent satisfaction of victory would just disappear. So what's the remedy to this, you might ask? Well, I can think of a few solutions actually. The first would be to crank up the difficulty across the board, which would help, but I don't think it would be good for the game because it would alienate casuals while catering to the hardcore fans. But I do think that a slight increase would be a good thing. The next way would probably be to make different Night Lords have different difficulty levels, sort of like Monster Hunter. So Night Lord 1 would be fairly easy compared to Night Lord number 8. The last way, and probably my favorite, is to have a sort of New Game Plus option. So after you beat a Night Lord, you then unlock higher difficulty options for that boss. But regardless of how they do it, it definitely needs to be done, and it needs to affect the whole world as well, all the enemies and everything, not just the bosses themselves. I think that is a very important point, because it's not just a boss problem, this is a problem with the difficulty of the entire game as a whole. Now, if you made it this far in the video, you might be enjoying yourself. If that's the case, consider leaving a like and subscribe. Or you could leave a handwritten letter and then just crumble it up and send me some money. Regular content updates or DLCs is another way I think that Nightreign could preserve its success more long-term. A content roadmap might be a better way to put it. FromSoft has been clear that they aren't making Nightreign a live service game, but it has been confirmed that they do plan on releasing at least one DLC in the future. After all, it says right in the deluxe edition description that a future DLC is included. So they are already kind of heading this direction anyway. I think the only question is how often and for how long will they do this? Because I think that when they stop adding regular content, especially if they don't do the other things I went over in this video, it won't be long before players start to fall off. Not because the game is bad in and of itself, it's just kind of in the nature of this style of game. Because they have emphasized speed and roguelike mechanics over the classic depth and explorative style of Souls games, Nightreign will need to be treated differently than their other titles. So if they launch the game, release a DLC a couple months later, and then that's it, I could see Nightreign having some major problems long term. Now I want to quickly go over a wish list of mine that after playing the game, these things are sort of what I think would make the game better, although they aren't necessarily essential to the game's survival. Plus, they're flipping awesome. The first being boss crossovers from Bloodborne and Sekiro, sort of a merging of universes in a way. Because remember, Nightreign is not canon, so they have a lot of freedom with this game that they won't have with others. But it would be outrageously awesome to find Ishin sitting inside a cave somewhere, or Al-Father chilling in a castle, or the cleric beast gnawing on a deer in the field. I get chills just thinking about it. Second, weapons that are unique to Nightreign instead of every weapon just being something from another game. Now, I'll admit, this is mostly just because I am a weapon junkie, but I do think it would add a unique element to Nightreign if there were weapons that only are found in this game specifically. And third, a torrent, or maybe even other kinds of mounts. Running fast is cool and everything, but I think the speed of the game warrants a mount that allows you to get from area to area faster. Because the game is so breakneck paced, exploration is almost lost in it because you don't have time to get all the runes you need while at the same time exploring the map. So if you could get around a little faster, I think that would help a lot. Plus, they're awesome. So, FromSoft, if you're hearing this, I want to ride a squirrel dragon with Pegasus wings.